Yes, everyone, welcome back. Today, I'm doing things a bit differently with the preview. There was so much to unpack in MARESCA'S press conference in the early hours of this morning that for this preview today, I'm going to focus entirely on his press conference and my predicted lineup for our upcoming game this morning at 12 AM against Real Madrid. So my friends, if you guys are excited to be playing against Madrid tonight, if you guys think we'll see some improvements in the team, hit that like button, share your thoughts and opinions. And let's get straight into things. Now, to start things off differently, let's go through the predicted lineup tonight. And as you guys are seeing on screen, I've gone for Robert Sanchez in goal. In defense, Reece, Fofana, Korbel, and Malo Gusto. In midfield, I've gone for Lavia, Enzo, and Nkunku. And up front, I've gone for Madueke, Gu, and Raheem Sterling. Now I'm going to break down why I'm thinking this could be potentially the lineup we see tonight. I think it's quite obvious that right now Robert Sanchez is the first choice keeper that Maresca is hoping to use at the moment. Let's see if Jorgensen, as he gets more fitness, as he gets more understanding with his teammates, Maresca is able to force himself into the team as time goes on. But in the meantime, Maresca is banking on Robert Sanchez. He's not been awful, I'll say. His passing can be good when he's focused. Let's hope he can step up a lot more. In defense, I'm feeling like this is the main defense that Maresca will start with. I think Reece and Gusto as the fullback, an inverted fullback is the way to go. I'm really loving when Gusto has that license to receive in midfield and then makes those underlaps out wide. It's helped create so many attacking avenues for us during this preseason, and I feel like in a role like this, he could improve even more on the ball and even more with his passing as well too, because sometimes the final ball isn't perfectly on point from Gusto, but the underlaps kickstart so many attacks. In defense, I think Korbel and Fofana need to play more games together to develop now. I know Fofana's been a bit iffy in preseason. Let's cut this guy some slack. He's missed a whole year of football. He's going to be super rusty. He's going to need some time to get back to his best mental state, and I think we should give him that grace, right? I think Levi Korbel at left back, listen, I've been a bit disappointed at times that he's not closing down enough. I'll be expecting too much from a player that shouldn't necessarily be playing at left back. For the contract we gave him, why is he not getting more consistent minutes playing in defense? You know, some decisions sometimes do annoy me, but I do feel like Korbel and Fofana is the way to go. Obviously, protecting them in front, Romeo Lavia, one of the highlights of this preseason. Someone that has a lot of history with Maresca already. I've been loving this guy's ability to help us play out from the back. Those line-breaking passes. I love the intelligence with how this guy plays, with a little like disguised reverse balls, the little like disguised shimmies. He goes one way to fool his marker before going the other to receive the ball, and he's always turning defense into attack. I think at the moment he's in my first team right now, and it's up to Caicedo and others now to force themselves in ahead of him. Ahead of Lavia, I've gone for Nkunku as an attacking 8 and Enzo as the other 8 too. I just think that Caicedo is so rusty, there's no need to force him. Use him in the second half at least, and I really feel like with this perfect midfield balance we have, we need more of like a playmaker style type of guy in mid that can link the midfield to the attack, and I think Nkunku's showing a lot of promise in that area. I want to see more of that. And I think Enzo, of course, listen, this will be a big season for Enzo. I do think that he can do well in this role. Of course, he's not fully fit right now, but I think he's the type of guy in games like this where, you know, you feel a sense of reliability when he's on the ball, a bit of composure that he brings, and of course, that final ball that he has more license to make now playing in this type of advanced 8 role. And up front to complete things, I think it's our best attack so far this preseason. Sterling on the left, who's looked sharp and lively, especially with this movement. This is a massive season for Sterling. He really can't slip up anymore, and he has looked promising, I have to say. Spearheading the attack, Mark Gu. One of the things that we're seeing a weakness in is that when he's not playing up front, the pressing ain't on point. We need that. He's showing some good understanding with his teammates, good link up, the ability to run the channels. He'll have a big test coming up against the Rudigers and co, but I do think Gu's going to be quite excited for that challenge. He has to start in this game for me, and to end things, Madueke on the right-hand side. I think he's been one of our best players in preseason. He's really starting to like step things up even more. Goals and assists coming more regularly, and I felt he could shine in the system. He has more license to attack, run towards goal. He's getting freed up a lot more down the flanks compared to other seasons where he has like 2 guys on him, or he's receiving balls where he has to like play a ball backwards. That's what I like about what I'm seeing with the width that Maresca encourages in his system, and I think Madueke is really shining. He ended last season very strong, and I feel like in pre-season he's keeping that going, and I think a big game against Real Madrid will do this guy's confidence even more, and if he performs well today, he is my first choice starter against City when the league starts. So that is my predictor lineup. Share your thoughts and opinions and let us know what your lineup prediction is in the comments below. So my friends, let's now end things by fully unpacking Enzo Maresca's press conference. Now, Maresca had probably his most open, honest press conference since becoming our new manager. Maresca was asked to give his honest opinions and takes on how pre-season is currently going, and Maresca revealed very honestly that there are difficulties he is facing. Now, a lot of these difficulties, I'll explain, have been things I've touched upon in previous previews. It makes a lot of sense because, as I've said, we're playing games nearly every 3 days during pre-season. Most of our players are still on holiday. Pre-season prep has not been ideal, and when you have games every 3 days, it means that your training sessions can't be that intensive because players can't be breaking down before games. So it's not ideal. There's an argument, in my opinion, that even though commercially the US pre-season tour is good, isn't necessarily good for the team's development. When you're constantly traveling from state to state, when you're playing on pitches that are awful, a lot of times I'm seeing players who don't really want to get involved physically because you don't want to risk getting any injuries before the season starts, as we've seen with Nkunku last preseason. Something closer to home, something that was in Europe would have been more beneficial in my opinion. And Maresca has basically said that he's not been able to prepare what he'd like to do normally using video analysis or even tactics build sessions. And obviously this is something that's key to his training methods. He revealed the only time he's properly had the team in his hands was back in Cobham, and that was like for less than 2 weeks. I think his openness does provide much needed perspective because it explains why we're seeing so many silly mistakes. If there was one small positive to take from the Man City game was that our individual errors basically gave City the win. In the first half, we lost 2-0. In the second half, we made that 2-2, and we came back to score 2 very good goals. So let's cross our fingers and hope we see some small improvements against Madrid tonight. Maresca was then asked, does he have much say when it comes to making decisions in the transfer market? Maresca said that there is no manager who is not involved because essentially they need players who fit their ideas tactically. Now, he isn't lying, but equally, he can't necessarily put forward the main targets that he wants because players such as Calafiori, for example, was a player he wanted that the club weren't able to get. But anyway, as he said, in the meantime, there are no key positions he wants to prioritize because he is still experimenting with the makeup of the squad he has right now. Talks then turned towards Nico Jackson, and Maresca revealed that he sees Nico as his main number 9 for this season. He revealed the current fitness of Nico, revealing that Nico just had his first session with the squads and it was a light one because of course we're playing against Real Madrid. So we don't really have much idea whether Nico will start this game or maybe come on to play the final 10-20 minutes in the second half. And in my opinion, I'm more prone to believe he'll come on during the second half. At the same time though, Maresca also revealed that with Nico and many other players in this squad, they are capable playing in different positions and areas. Now, of course, Nico is his number 9, but if the opportunity moment came, Nico can also play as a left winger. So let's see what happens there. Obviously, it's not surprising Maresca says this considering our continued interest in Amora Dion and Victor Osimhen too. So let's see what happens to Nico next season. And one of the big substantial parts of the press conference was focused on Conor Gallagher as well as the state of the academy. When Maresca was asked whether Gallagher may have been a squad player under him this season, Maresca correctly said that it would be a disrespect to start placing roles of importance on anyone in the squad right now, when right now it's about the players needing to impress them and show them what they're fully about. You must keep that environment open. There shouldn't be any hierarchy right now. That hierarchy can be developed as the season goes on. And I agree with this because it's been the same energy many coaches have had here over the past few years, and I think it's been no surprise as to why Cobham grads have been able to find themselves in the first team as time goes on because of that meritocracy that coaches encourage within their squads. But to move on, Maresca gave some very interesting opinions based on the state of academies, not only with us, but in this country as well as PSR difficulties that clubs face too. When asked about the difficult nature of young players breaking into first team squads, Maresca revealed that this is actually a growing issue across many clubs in this country, and he's saying clubs are essentially compelled to sell players from academies to take advantage of PSR rules, because that is the only way a lot of these clubs, of course, can reinvest back in the team and improve first team demands and expectations. When asked if the club still cares to promote players from the academy and not just to use them as, profit vehicles, Maresca said absolutely. The club's intentions isn't just to sell academy grads for money. Listen, sometimes actions must speak louder than words, and I think the actions are saying everything we need to see. There is clearly a disconnect between what is being said and the realities that we are seeing with our own two eyes. He went on to state that it is a shame in that sense though, and he gave the example of Francesco Totti, of course, Roma legend, one club man, was at Roma for like 20 years plus, and mentioned that maybe due to the PSR rules, that can prevent many players from having that type of possibility that used to be more commonplace maybe 20 years ago. Now I get what Maresca is saying, but I also call cap on a few things. Now on one hand, listen, he's only just become our new manager. He's going to be very diplomatic in terms of how he talks. He must defend the club and the owners at times. I get that. But instead, I want to have more of a conversation around, the sentiment of what Maresca is actually talking about. Because on one hand, I completely understand the PSR complications that can come. And there's a reason why these rules have been changed now. They will now kickstart from the 25-26 season, where clubs can now spend more closer to the revenue they're bringing in. And I think it's up to 70% of club revenue, which makes things a bit more fair and a bit more even. So you could argue that what he's saying kind of has a short shelf life, because PSR rules are going to be out the door from the end of this season. Clubs have been taking advantage of this rule, and we have to remember one thing. Academy players are essentially free players, right? Because the only thing clubs are paying for are their wages. So I don't necessarily feel there was a real need for us to have to sell as aggressively as what we've done, especially when coaches prior have been open to using what has come from this academy. Case in point, Pochettino last season, he said numerous times very publicly that he was more than happy to use a lot of the academy grads and the players that have that connection to the club and to this country as well too, to use as his foundation in terms of team spirit and team harmony and team everything, right? That's why Gallagher became an important player. That's why Trevor Chalobah became a first team guy near the end. That's why we saw many players also getting opportunities from the academy under Pochettino. Yeah, Pochettino was consistently undermined, and you think to yourself, but if this guy is literally getting the best out of players that cost us nothing, surely that means that we don't have to spend as much signing other players when we clearly have players who are good enough that cost us nothing. And this is where I disagree with the sentiment that Maresca is saying, because he's trying to almost say that clubs have no choice but to be forced into selling academy grads, because these rules are so unfair and they're so tight when it's capped. I mean, we've spent so aggressively, and we have to remember the talent we've let go since the ownership's taken over. You're looking at Hudson-Odoi, you're looking at Mount, you're looking at Loftus-Cheek, you're looking at players like Lewis Hall, Maatsen, Gallagher's now going. Chalobah and Broja are the next ones to go as well too. There were many players who were already good enough at this level already that could have been used, and that could have allowed us to save money instead of buying other players in positions that aren't needed as much. And that money could have used on buying upgraded players that push the needle. That's all that had to happen. But a lot of this has come at the expense of directors who have been paid big money to run the club in their image, and they are solely focused on making their grand vision come to life at the expense of every good facet and aspect that pre-existed everything at this football club. I constantly read so many bad faith arguments around the academy, and I think to myself, are you forgetting that we just sold Maatsen for nearly 40 million? Are you forgetting Champions League clubs are buying our guys? Are you seeing Newcastle trying to spend 60 M's to buy Mark Gurley? Who are these players who aren't good enough? And tell me the guys in the squad right now who are levels over the type of talent we've let go for nothing. In my opinion, in this country, everything has a price. And in that sense, we kind of sold the game in a way, because every owner in this country is a foreign owner and a foreign investor, and foreign investors come with their strategies, and their strategies are to make profit and make money. They're not in the business to just solely win trophies for us fans at a loss. We got lucky with Roman Abramovich, and even then, he could have been a bit better in making us more sustainable. As I keep stressing, the level of spending has been aggressive. Case in point in Andre Santos. Yet again, he was told for the consecutive summer he was going to remain with the team, only to find out last minute actually it's best to go out on loan because actually there's no real spaces for you that will give you the minutes that you need. And he thinks to yourself, why did we then buy 3-4 players in midfield at his age in that position when we could have maybe focused on having one of them at least right? And these are some of the problems I see with being overly aggressive in squad building. Case in point, this summer window in particular. We've signed some interesting names, but that's all they are really in my opinion. Interesting options that don't improve us in any strong way. 100 million has nearly been spent on players that aren't even guaranteed to be first choice starters. And these signings have come at the expense of selling all the academy grads that are going for good money. And the reality is that after this window, there won't be any more grads that can go for 20, 30, 40 now. We exhausted everything we have. Focusing on building a network model at the same time and developing the first team. Again, lots of unnecessary, unfocused spending that wasn't necessarily needed now. So miss me with this sympathy for clubs being forced to have to sell based on PSR rules being so unfair. It's nonsense. It's the culture of football clubs. They'd rather go out to buy to make their strategy come to life instead of enhance or utilize anything that pre-existed, and that's the reality of that. So that's everything I have to say around Enzo Maresca's press conference. Share your thoughts and opinions. How do you feel about what was said? Where do you fall in this debate? And my friends, with that note, I am the EFC. This is BlueLionsTV. See you all soon.